Welcome to the week 3 go-to session. This is the third session of 4, although this is actually only the second one we've had live because last week I had a car emergency. My car was in the shop. I was housebound for 3 days and my Wi-Fi connection was not stable enough to hold a lecture last Tuesday. So instead I put up a lecture from last month, which I know is a pain because I pride myself on having pretty focused, straight to the point lectures, giving people what they need and nothing more. And last month's lecture, which I did with a teammate who I love, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I would never have let lecture go for an hour and 40 minutes on my own. That's too long, right? I lose people at an hour. Actually, I think I lose people after 30 minutes, but an hour is max. So I'm going to try to keep things to an hour, so let's get rolling. We have a lot to get through. I want to talk about this week's 2 major assignments, and also quickly give like an APA run through. In fact, if you want to play along at home, you might want to open up Microsoft Word. If you have a computer, if you're watching this lecture, those of you live, you can open up a Microsoft Word document and follow along when we get to it. Those of you who are watching the recording, well, you're probably watching this on a computer and you can do so as well. But first, let's talk about what's due this week. Actually, let's talk about what was just due on Sunday. People submitted a research outline, right? How did people do with this? Did you do okay? Were you a little bit confused? Again, I feel bad because if I had hosted a live lecture last week, I would have spent a lot of time explaining this assignment in detail. People did pretty well on the journal assignment, which asked for a thesis and 3 topic sentences. I was very, very pleased that most people got that, okay? Because if I could, real quickly, remember in week 1, we looked at some sample ads, right? And this was one of the ads we looked at, this Jeep ad. As I said, you don't see both halves of the ad, you only see what's on the left, but by showing both halves, it kind of reveals the visual trick. Remember we talked about this? I even came up with a thesis in that lecture, which focused on the ad's choice of background color, right? This fabric-y kind of beige, mauve color. Why do that? The choice to use animal imagery, and also the ad's tagline. And so what I just want to recap, because you have 2 things that are due this week. There is an essay draft that is due on Wednesday. I'm going to talk more about that in a moment. Okay, so yeah, that's coming up tomorrow, which is pretty quick, I know. But I'll get to explaining how it's kind of a low-stakes assignment, and that it's graded much more for hitting certain marks than it is for having an absolutely perfect essay. But real quickly, I mean, this is why in week 1, when you did the worksheet, the brainstorming worksheet, and had to come up with a thesis, and I responded to your thesis. And then in week 2, you had that journal where you wrote your thesis in 3 topic sentences, and I responded to those. I gave every single student this sample essay that I wrote. I did this because I wanted to see what it was like to complete the assignments that I give to my students. I was overly confident. I thought, I'm the teacher. I already know what I want to say about this Jeep ad. I will bang this essay out in an hour or 2. And then 12 hours later, I was finished. So yes, any assignment, of course, is challenging because writing is never easy. It becomes easier over time, but it never becomes easy, even for someone like me, in part because I'm a perfectionist. The name here is Jane Student. That's just a made-up name. It's me, okay? So I gave this paper an appropriate title. I called it Animal Logic because the ad deals with animal imagery. But all of you received this, and it is a color-coded version of the essay. So the thesis is highlighted, okay? And the 3 thesis points, right? That 3 that I repeated in week 1 that I'm going to repeat all month, that you have to think in terms of 3s, 3 moves that you can spot in the ad, they're highlighted as well. So through the use of simple color, playful imagery, and a double meaning tagline that reinforces themes. So there are my 3 points: color, imagery, tagline. Jeeps see whatever you want to see ad appeals to the inner adventure inside everyone to unlock a hidden enthusiasm for Jeep. So this is what we're aiming for, okay? And this is what I'm asking for you, from you for Wednesday. You're going to write a 5-paragraph essay. So paragraph 1 is your introduction, which ideally should have 3 components. An opening move, okay? In other words, you get the ball rolling. Here I decided to riff on the idea of Jeep. Jeep, the well-known brand, practically markets itself with its reputation for ruggedness, independence, and adventure. I found a nifty quote that reinforces this. You don't have to have research in your introduction, but I thought it was such a neat quote that it's the most copied brand of American vehicles that I decided to drop it in. And then I keep riffing, right? The Jeep spirit is hardwired into our cultural consciousness. One can easily picture a driver behind the wheel of a Jeep, downshifting around a snaking mountain bend, or kicking up dust through the sun-baked Australian outback, or zooming past zebras grazing the Serengeti. Okay, so that's my opening move. So for your ad, you'll have to think of an opening move. It might be something as simple as, if you're writing about the Call of Duty ad, maybe you will discuss the popularity of the game. Okay, how it's been one of the most famous game series of the past, 10? Probably closer to 15 years. Yeah, I played the original Call of Duty for PC when it came out, and that must have been like 2003, 2004. So yeah, 15 years, right? Or if it's McDonald's, maybe you'll riff on the idea of McDonald's and its overwhelming popularity. Or because McDonald's ad deals with kind of millennial anxiety, maybe you'll spend a few sentences talking about the economic downturn that we just came out of a few years ago, right? And how maybe the ad was in touch with those times. Okay, so you basically you find your kind of way into the piece. And then, yes, so one is making an opening move. Second, mention the ad. Okay, think of your readers as complete strangers who know nothing about the ad, this course, or this assignment. So you know that you're writing about the McDonald's ad, or the Call of Duty ad, or the Allstate ad, or the Altoids Mints ad, but your readers don't. So yeah, mention the ad. Here I mention it and even describe it a bit, just to bring readers up to speed. Okay, it is perhaps fitting that the Jeeps see what everyone to see ad embraces the sportive feelings that such a vehicle invokes. Then I briefly describe it. The print poster contains a reversible image in the center, set against a beige mesh background. The reversible image is a vintage hand-drawn animal sketch, which looked at one way as a giraffe head, looked at another way as a penguin. The word Jeep, along with the ad's tagline, appears above and below the central image. Okay, so I'm just giving them a really quick 3 to 4 sentence description of the ad, because my readers have no idea what the ad is like. So before I begin analyzing, I just describe it briefly. And then finally, my thesis. Okay, so think of that, three parts, right? Some sort of opening move. It doesn't have to be as long as mine. I get into it quite a bit, right? Because I love to hear the sound of my own voice, especially on the page. But some sort of opening move, a brief mention of the ad, and your thesis. And then your 3 points listed in your thesis become the topics for your 3 middle paragraphs, your 3 body paragraphs. So here we have color, imagery, tagline. So here's my paragraph on color. It begins with a clear topic sentence. The topic sentence doesn't have to be the first sentence, but it often is. And it's sort of like the thesis for that paragraph. It lets readers know, oh, this paragraph is going to be about the ad's use of color. Okay, and it's signaled in the opening sentence. Then there's a paragraph on the ad's imagery. Okay, same thing. Topic sentence is highlighted. You have this essay, right? So you can study. And then a third body paragraph about the third thesis point, which is the ad's tagline. Okay. And finally, your 5th paragraph is just a short conclusion, where you will echo your thesis using different language and write a few lines that brings the essay to a close. If you are very confused about the 5-paragraph format, if you've never heard of this concept before, this is brand new to you. For some, this is old hat. For some of you, you're learning this for the first time. If you're truly confused, imitate this example, okay? Obviously, you can't steal wording. You can't just take my sentences and replace them with the name of your ad, but try to do the same things, okay? So here I make an opening move. You make an opening move for your ad. I briefly describe the ad. You briefly describe the ad. Here's my thesis. You put in your thesis. I do think when it comes to the body paragraphs, you'll probably follow a similar format that I used, which is, again, a topic sentence that establishes what this paragraph is about, right? So you discuss your thesis points in order. So here it's color, imagery, tagline, meaning the paragraph should appear in that order. So here's the paragraph on color. Take some time to describe how whatever your first move is, your first thesis point is, how it works in the ad. Again, your readers, you have to imagine, don't know the ad as well as you do. So I don't just automatically jump into discussing the Jeep ad's color and what it means or why the color is what it is. First, I take time to describe it. Okay, the ad's beige background brings to mind fabric and textiles, a burlap sack, a tawny canvas tent, khaki clothing. The color might also suggest environments and so on, right? Even before that, the ad's creator, Leo Burnett Paris, has chosen a simple background of camel mesh. In other words, I describe how the issue is at work in the ad before I begin to analyze it. You had to hand in a research outline on Sunday. I'm hoping that that assignment was clear, especially if you took the time to watch the hour and 40-minute lecture. It's a very long lecture. Your goal is you just need 3 sources, okay? Why 3? Because you have 3 thesis points, and you need to support what you're writing about with research. So my 3 points are color, imagery, tagline. I need to find 3 pieces of research, 1 for each of those points. So here I found some nifty quotations that reinforce that, for example, those earth tones that appear in this ad, they're usually reserved for backgrounds. Well, that's useful because here that's exactly how it's being used as a background. And I found a second quote about how neutrals and browns, those earth tones, are the epitome of nature. Well, that's useful too, because here it's definitely playing with the idea of nature. Okay, so I found some useful, relevant quotations and short things. For example, you can take just a phrase. You don't have to take a whole sentence or a giant paragraph. Same things here. I just took a short sentence. Neutrals and browns are the epitome of nature. Okay, I just take what I need to support what I'm saying. And then I repeat the process. So here's my paragraph on the ad's imagery. First, I spend time explaining it. Again, the reader doesn't know the ad like I do. So first I take time to explain how imagery works in the ad. And then I get around to explaining it. And here I found a nifty quotation about the ad's imagery. Okay. And then, here I start to make sense out of things. That the imagery wouldn't work if it were for a different car brand. Because only such a versatile automobile as Jeep, the ad seems to suggest, could take one on a journey into the heart of the African plain or to the rocky tip of South America to see giraffes and penguins up close. And I won't go through every paragraph. The same thing for the final body paragraph, okay? Topic sentence, it identifies what the topic is. I explain how the issue works in the ad, okay? And that's probably one of my biggest pieces of advice is read your own work from the perspective of someone who is not you. Like pretend you've just picked up your own paper and you have no idea why it was written because it was left behind on a library table or a cafeteria table. Could you pick up your own essay and read it from start to finish and not feel lost? You should be able to do that, okay? Because good writing always holds the reader's hands. No, you don't have to explain things like that Jeep is a car or that McDonald's is a fast food restaurant. You can assume that knowledge, but you don't assume that they already know the ad as well as you do. You have to take the time to explain things. And a good way to do that is to pretend that you're explaining it to someone who is a perfect stranger. And again, you have this essay to study as an example. Now, does all this make sense so far? Any questions? Yes, no, maybe so. And how about the research outline? I haven't had a chance to look at, let's see, Patricia's and James. Do we feel confident we did well with that assignment, or was it a bit confusing? This is the assignment where you had to basically fill out information for 3 sources. Here it is, 2.5 assignment, organizing research. Okay, Jim feels pretty good about the outline. Good, good, good. You do have a semi-example. Okay, it's not a complete example, but you have basically it's the same thing repeated. But for example, you had to find sources, right, and give it basic information about it. Create an APA reference. Dave says, should we highlight ours like you highlighted yours? No, for your essays that you hand in on Wednesday, you don't have to have anything highlighted. There is a peer review activity, which we have to talk about, that does require highlighting. I'm going to get to that in a moment. This week is a bit crowded, to be honest, because you had something due Sunday, this research outline. Wednesday, you have a draft due, which is a bit rushed in my opinion, but this is the structure that the department wants. And then you immediately have to jump into peer review. So looking at one of your classmates' papers and answering a series of prompts. One of the prompts asks you to color code the paper, so we'll get to that, explaining that in a moment. But no, your actual draft that you're going to hand in, Dave, you don't have to highlight it all. I just have mine highlighted so people can see the parts, especially those who are still a little bit unsure about Thesis and how Thesis is setting up the entire paper. But anyway, here's a snippet of what you needed to do for Sunday, this past Sunday. I'm going to go easy on APA because even though the week 2 lecture covered it, again, it's an hour and 40-minute lecture, and I'm going to cover APA today in more detail. So I'll go a little bit easy on APA because it can be confusing. And you had to summarize it, okay? And then you had to pull 2 possible quotes or ideas from each of your 3 sources. This is what I wish I would have had time to explain last week. Again, you're trying to find 3 sources for your 3 thesis points. So let's say you're writing about the Call of Duty ad, and you've decided to discuss the Call of Duty ad's diverse cast, its choice of music, and what's a third thing from that ad? I don't know. It's Hollywood, almost cinematic style. Okay, so you should find 3 things that relate to that. Now, one source has been given to you already. It's this guy here, Pathos, Ethos, and Logos in Advertising. I think this video is contained in a couple different activities. This is a pretty general video. So the idea here is that hopefully you can find something in this video that you can relate to one of your 3 thesis points. Okay, I will encourage you to find something more interesting than just telling me that pathos is the appeal to emotion, because that's just a basic definition of the word. If you pulled that idea and put it in your research outline, don't worry, I'll go a little bit easy on that. But ideally, it would be nice if you could find something a bit more interesting from the video. I don't have a problem with people ditching the video if they want. I didn't use the video in my Jeep essay that I wrote. In fact, I came up with 7 sources. Only 3 were needed. I went overboard. Not because I was trying to be super ambitious, just because I really found so much interesting stuff. Actually, I think I have six sources. Okay, but none of them are that video. But yes, you can use the video if you like. And that way you only have to find 2 other sources. So decide which one of your 3 thesis points you can connect this video to. And then you just have to find 2 others. One should come from the Full Sail Library database. If you struggle to find stuff, I'm also open to finding just quality sources through Googling, but they should be quality sources. So no online dictionaries, no Wikipedia. I mean, Wikipedia can be okay if you go down to the references at the bottom of Wikipedia and find a quality source there, but no, not Wikipedia itself. Yeah, basically no online encyclopedias, no online dictionaries, no IMDb, no biography.com, all these like super general sources. So using the example of, let's say someone's writing about the Call of Duty ad, and their 3 thesis points are the ad's diverse cast, its choice of music, and its cinematic style. So you'd find 3 things that fit that. It should not be difficult at all, for example, to find a nifty quote somewhere out there in the internet from a quality source that comments on how in the 21st century, being hyper aware of diversity in advertising is very, very apparent to advertisers. Yeah, that shouldn't be too difficult at all. Music, again, I'll actually feature this a little bit later, but they use a famous song, the Rolling Stones' "Gimme Shelter." Yes, it's a famous song. It's a classic rock song. It's upbeat. And that's part of the reason why it's chosen. But lots of songs could have been chosen if that was the only criterion, right? There are lots of upbeat songs. There are lots of famous classic rock songs. Why does it use that song? Okay, why does it use the Rolling Stones' "Gimme Shelter"? I think answering that specific question is more interesting than just, again, stating the obvious that it's an upbeat song. And it shouldn't be difficult to do research into that, right? So if you don't know what I'm talking about, why "Gimme Shelter" would be an appropriate song for this ad, doing some research into that will help you find out why. What was my last point? Cinematic style? Yeah, you can probably find some sort of quote about that as well. Okay, so yeah, don't make this assignment more difficult than it seems. I actually wish they had a more down-to-earth example here than the effective voice quality on ad efficacy. Like, this sounds like a really, really dense article. Okay, and the 2 quotes that were pulled: female speakers were considered to be warmer than male speakers. Well, actually, that could be a useful quote. Okay. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can find good stuff in academic journals, but sometimes I find that students pull really, really dense quotes, and they're not even sure what the quote entirely means. It's just that because the quote has the trigger word that they're looking for, like if one of their 3 thesis points is lighting, they just grab a fancy sounding sentence, really long and dense and academic, just because it has the word lighting in it. And then I have to be the mean instructor and say, okay, but do you really understand what this quote means? Like, this quote is talking about vertical lighting, or a very, very specific type of lighting that doesn't even apply to your ad. And it seems like you just grab this ad or this quote because it has the word lighting in it. So actually, I'd much prefer people find quality quotes, accessible quotes, down-to-earth quotes, even if they have to get away from the full sale library. Although a little bit later, I'll show how you can still find accessible stuff through the library. Okay, so that's the point of the research outline, which I still have to get through grading, and you probably won't get them until tomorrow, maybe even Thursday. I have until Thursday at 5 p.m. to grade all of them. But I will try to get through those as quickly as possible, okay? These are tough to grade. I'm laughing because, yeah, it's not my favorite assignment to grade, staring deeply at research. Oh, okay. So let's see. We've talked about the research outline. This Wednesday, the draft is due. I don't think I have too much to say about that because I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You just have to write a draft. And this is partly why I gave each and every one of you the Jeep essay. So you have it. You have that highlighted version so you can study it. For some students, they don't truly, like ad analysis doesn't truly click for them until they see an example paper. Then when they see the paper, they're like, oh, okay, I get it. This is what ad analysis is. Okay, so some people really learn through examples. And I think you have an example sample paper in the assignment itself as well. Okay. Where is it? Oh, we're here. Okay. Composing with care. You can read through all these instructions on your own. But actually, I think I have this highlighted in my presentation. So let's go there real quickly. Welcome to week 3, writing your essay. Okay, there's a reminder of everything I've just talked about. You have a draft that's due on Wednesday. Peer review is due Sunday. Okay, so there's a pretty quick turnaround. This is a hectic week, but the good news is next week is largely free. Okay, you have a pretty simple journal activity, but otherwise you just are going to get feedback on your essay and then revise it. Okay, but yes, this week you had something due on Sunday, you have something due on Wednesday, and you have something due on Sunday again. This is just a reminder of what you saw as an example in that journal assignment for last week, right? The thesis statement, then 3 topic sentences. Most of you did pretty well in that. We just talked about this, what you did for Sunday. Let me fly through this. I don't know how many of you are keeping up with the reading, but the reading does have good stuff in it, like how to write introduction paragraphs if you're not sure how to do that, how to write conclusion paragraphs. Again, you can turn to this information you're reading. You can study the 2 examples. You have the Jeep example, and then in the activity for the essay draft due this Wednesday, you have a sample paper that was written on that McDonald's ad. Not my McDonald's ad, the commercial, but the one that's used in the thumbnail example, a print outline, a print ad. And yeah, this is the basics. The essay should be between 700 and 1400 words. My Jeep essay, I think, is around 900, and it's exactly 3 pages. So yeah, you should not have a problem reaching 700 words, especially since 5 paragraphs, when you're taking the care to write with thoughtfulness and depth, right? Composing a fairly decent introduction and then spending time with your 3 thesis points one by one, explaining, supporting with research. Yeah, you should have no problem hitting 700 words. We'll get to APA in just a moment. Okay. But here's what I wanted to show you. This is a relatively low stakes assignment, the essay draft that is due on Wednesday, and this is on purpose because we don't want people to panic in case we want people to have the freedom to try the essay, and even if it's not in its most elegant form, or even if it still needs a bit of work, your grade doesn't go down the toilet. In 2 ways. One, it's not worth as much percentage-wise. And second, because the grading is pretty different. Yeah, you get graded on how many marks you hit. So like, let's say, and here are the marks. Focus, in other words, thesis. Organization, have you written a 5-paragraph essay? Does it have research? Does the essay have content that's fairly well developed? Is it following APA format? Grammar, does it meet the length requirement? Even if it meets 0, so it's not doing any of this, you still get points, right? So I'm always confused. Like, if someone just doesn't hand it in, am I supposed to give them a 30? Because they did hit 0 out of 7. For hitting just 3 out of 7, you get a passing grade. Okay, a 70 is the lowest passing grade for this class. So even if you do 3 of these things fairly well, you'll earn a 70. Now, the confusing part is that the grade may not 100% match what maybe it would have received on its own merits. I sometimes do give half points, okay, because sometimes I'm torn. Like sometimes, yes, it has some focus, but not completely, so I give it half a point instead of a full point. So it's not too common that someone receives a 100, even though maybe if I were to grade it on its own merits, it would receive a B instead of an A. But just be careful, okay? Because you get, pretty generous grades for just hitting basic marks. And you have this rubric in the activity itself if you want to study it and look at it. But just be aware of that. I even include a note usually. I try to word it as politely as possible, saying like, hey, great job. Just don't think that this 100 means you don't have to revise, because the grading is purposely pretty generous. Okay, so peer review. I blew by the essay draft stuff because I think it's self-explanatory. You have to write a draft. And I'm going to get to the APA components in the last 20 minutes or so. But let's talk about peer review. Okay, so I need to go to Turnitin to show this and log in. So Turnitin, peer review is handled completely through Turnitin.com. So those of you who are still having problems registering, you got to get this fixed, okay? Because again, it's handled completely through Turnitin. And I think I have to fix some of these dates, right? We'll see. Anyway, I'm going to go into the peer review activity. Now, I can't show what it looks like on the student's end, but I can show you the prompts. You're going to have one paper distributed to you at random. Okay, so you're going to receive a classmate's paper. But you're actually going to do this process twice. You're going to do it for the paper that's distributed to you and for your own essay. Okay, so you're going to do the same. You're going to answer the same prompts for another person's paper and your own. The first one asks you to color code the essay to identify the thesis statement. So you'll highlight the thesis in blue. You'll highlight the topic sentences in orange. Any details from the ad, yellow. Research in red. And any explanations that link the examples to the research, green. So let me open up a clean version of a Jeep essay. Okay. Do I still have it open? Okay, so here's a clean, non-color coded one. So what did it say? You would highlight the thesis in blue. So here's the thesis, right? And color it blue. Ooh, that's a really harsh blue. How about I just put the font in blue? Okay, and a lighter blue. Okay, now it's impossible. Okay, so blue. What were the other things? I won't do all of it, but topic sentences orange. Any details from the ad yellow. Okay. So here's the topic sentence. That will be in orange. Any details from the ad will be in yellow. So all this is description from the ad. That will be in yellow, and so on. Okay. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to highlight, in fact, instead of color things. Color the font a different color. And I forget what the rest was, like highlighting research in green, I think it was. Okay, so that's basically all you have to do. And I can show you what it looks like and Turnitin, kind of. I have some screenshots. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. So this is what you're going to see on your end. Okay, you're going to click on Write Reviews to begin the process. It's pretty intuitive. I haven't had really students get confused about this. Yeah, it says plan to spend at least 2 hours per review. You can probably do it in less time than that. We just exaggerate a little bit so people don't rush through that. But yeah, plan to spend at least an hour per review. Okay. And then you can click to start either your classmates review, so that's the paper that's been distributed to you, or your self review. Again, you're going to go over those same prompts for another person and yourself, your own paper, which means, yes, you have to have a paper submitted. Even if you hand it in late, like let's say on Thursday or Friday, it's due on Sunday. So, but yes, you do have to have your own paper submitted in order to do the self review. This is just a kind of, the prompts here are actually a little bit different than what you're going to answer, but this is the gist of what you're going to see, okay, overall. You'll have the prompts on the right, and you'll have a completion box here to write what you need to. And then in order to highlight, you'll have this little tools function over here in the left-hand corner, top left-hand corner, which will open up the toolbox. Again, it's pretty self-explanatory because it's pretty similar to what you'll see in like Microsoft Word. And you will choose the highlighting tool and then choose the appropriate colors. Again, thesis in blue, topic sentences in orange. So some things have changed, okay? So you'll have the correct prompts when you go in to turn it in. This is from an older version of the class where the prompts were a little bit different. But you have the tools at your ready in Turnitin.com. It's a really simple process. And actually, don't be too frightened by peer review because it's much simpler than you think, this entire task. I'm going to go back to the prompts in a second and show you what the other prompts ask for, but they're all really basic stuff. Okay. Some important things to keep in mind, however, is to you don't have to, but you might want to type your responses into a Microsoft Word document first, just so in case you don't lose it, because things can happen online, and it's really frustrating if you lose your work. Second, proofread and save before you copy and paste and turn it in. This should be a simple assignment, but I do see problems where students get really loose with grammar. For example, maybe because it's an assignment that occurs online, they start typing it all lowercase, or they leave out punctuation, or formatting is all smashed together. So instead of there being two spaces after a period, sentences are just smashed together. Take the time to, you don't have to do much writing for this assignment. So make sure that the writing that does appear is readable. You do have certain word minimums. You'll see these as well. My word minimums are, I think, a lot less than this, but you do have some minimums to meet. Most importantly, though, understand the difference between save and submit. Okay, you can save your work, so you don't have to do it in 1 2-hour shot. If you need to leave and come back, you can do so. But if you have to get up and leave and come back and do it later, click save. Do not click submit. Do not click submit until you are truly ready to submit your work. Also, if you don't press save, your work will be lost. So don't assume that it's continually updating and saving for you. Okay, this is another reason to first type into Microsoft Word. There's nothing more annoying than doing all this work and then finding out it's not been saved. So click save whenever you need to, and then walk away and come back. All right, so if you're interrupted, you click save, but don't click submit. Okay, just save, then come back. Your work will be saved. But if you click submit, then even if you're half finished, it's going to be submitted half finished. If you have any questions, contact me. Here, let me quickly show you the other prompts. Let me close a bunch of stuff. No, I don't want to save. Okay. Got too many things open. Let me drag this back up. Okay, so here are the prompts you have to answer. The first one is color coding, and then you simply write done in the box. Okay, that's why it asks for a minimum answer length of 1. What ad did the essay discuss? Well, that's pretty easy. You just have to name the ad. What do you believe the thesis statement is in this essay? Minimum answer length of 10 words. You can write more than 10, but you have to write at least 10. If you don't thesis statements, please tell the reader that they don't have a thesis, or your classmate that they don't have a thesis. I know it says, what do you believe the thesis statement is in the, you can answer that, but you can also say, like, I'm not sure because this isn't the kind of thesis that Mr. Sussman has been teaching all month. I don't see a clear statement that lists 3 moves that the ad makes. Okay. What are the main points discussed in this essay? In other words, what are those 3 things listed in the thesis? Okay. And then the last 2 are probably the ones that will take you a bit more time. What are 2 ways that the essay meets the assignment goals? Explain how. We've been talking about this all month. You've been receiving my feedback as well. So If you need to, rely on my feedback. I write a lot. I know. I write too much sometimes. But the good news is you should be able to have a clear sense of like what the assignment requires at this stage. And you should be able to write back to your classmate 2 ways that the essay meets the assignment. Also 2 ways that your own paper meets the assignment. And then 2 ways that this essay could be improved. Okay. Again, be specific and think of the things we've been talking about all month. Thesis, having 3 clear thesis points, having a 5-paragraph essay, introduction, conclusion, 3 body paragraphs in between that focus on each of those thesis points one at a time. Yeah, be specific, especially if you sense that the writer needs help. Don't just rubber stamp and say, good job, or I would give this an A if I were the instructor. No, if you notice things that are clearly in need of improvement, mention them, okay? Questions at this point about peer review? Or is it pretty self-explanatory, I hope? Because what I'd like to do now is spend some time talking about APA. You do have a video that covers some of this, but I'm going to go into more detail than that video gives. So if you have a blank Microsoft Word document and you want to follow along, please do so. I am going to move pretty quickly because I only have 25 minutes to do this. If I have to go 5 minutes extra, I will. But I'm going to teach you from beginning to end how to set up your paper so that it looks like it's in the right format, and then also cover in-text citations and references. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is work on the cover page. So we're going to start with the header, which is this top intro at the top of the page. And in Microsoft Word, I hope you all have access to Microsoft Word, we simply double click in the top intro to get in. Now we have to write the words running head, okay, colon. And then in all caps, the title of your paper goes here, okay? Now, if you're following along with me, I strongly recommend doing 2 things. First of all, the entire essay, okay, so the header, the cover page, the essay itself, the references at the very end, all have to be in Times New Roman 12-point font, which means we have to change this to the proper font. So we're going to, right now we're automatically in the header and footer tab, which opens up as soon as you're in the header. We need to go back to the home tab. You can also get to things like up here, okay? So format, font, okay? But you can also go to the home tab, and we're gonna go to Times New Roman 12-point font. Now, while it's highlighted, I also recommend copying it because an annoying thing happens every month, and I don't know why, but it sometimes disappears, so we're gonna have to put it back. So if you copy it, you don't have to retype it again, okay? We're gonna go back to the header and footer tab. We also have to insert page numbers, which we can do here with the page number function, okay? Or you can go up here to insert page numbers. And yes, we want the number to show up on the first page, and we do want it in the top right corner, but you're gonna see this is going to make things disappear. So I click OK. Well, that's good. We also have to click this box here, different first page. Why? Because we want the word running head to only appear on this first cover page, but not on subsequent pages. Okay, this is like an announcement. Running head, like this is going to be the running title, but we don't need that announcement on every page. We only need it here. Now this is where it sometimes disappears. See? So I have to do this step over again. So I'll just put that back, insert the page number again. So I don't know why it does this. Show number on first page, yes, click OK. Okay, good. So now we got everything to stick. Now to get out of the header, we just click outside of it. And now we create the rest of our cover page. We do this by in the middle of the page, and we can just eyeball things, centered vertically and horizontally. So I'm going to use the center tool. The entire paper also needs to be double spaced, including the cover page. So why don't we just set up double spacing now? So we'll change this from 1.0 to 2.0. And we have to put 3 things here. First is the title of your paper, but this time not in all caps. Title of your paper goes here, okay? And we follow typical conventions where we capitalize important words, but not little words like of, and, the. Notice what happened here too, right? Here it's Times New Roman, but here it's not. So we're going to have to get that set up as well. Times New Roman. And good. We're pretty much set up for the entire paper now. So we need a title. Your name goes here. Okay. So Jane, student. And finally, the name of the institution you're associated with, which in this case is Full Sail University. Now, you just have to eyeball things. So it looks like that could be bumped down a little bit. Maybe one more. That looks centered to me. Okay. Again, just use your judgment. Now I'm going to put the cursor right after the Full Sail University, and I'm going to keep hitting enter until I get to a brand new line on the next page. As soon as I get there, I'm going to stop. Almost there, almost there. Stop. Okay, so on the very first line of a new page, we again put our title. And then we hit enter just once, not twice, not 3 times, not 10 times, just once. We move our cursor all the way to the left. We begin a new paragraph by indenting. So we hit the tab key on our left, which will indent 5 spaces. And you can start typing your paper. Okay. Now I'm going to copy this so I can fill up some space. When you reach the end of a sentence, right, you put a period. You hit your space bar twice. Once, twice, keep typing. Once, oops. Once, twice, keep typing. I don't know why my thing is acting goofy. I have no idea why it's wrapping down to a new paragraph every time, but okay. And it's important to set up double spacing because I've seen students, they're truly single spaced and then they hit enter twice when they get near the end of a line, kind of like they're using an old-fashioned typewriter. And when they near the end of the page, they manually hit return twice, but that does goofy things format-wise. So no, set up double spacing to begin with. Now I want to fill up a whole bunch of space, so okay. That looks like a paragraph. So let me take all of this, and I'm going to fill up a whole bunch of space. Okay. Now, if you get to the end of a paragraph, you hit enter just once, not twice, not 3 times. Indent by hitting tab and keep going. Because sometimes students think that this looks smashed together, so they decide to go like this. No, don't do that. Okay. It may look smashed together to you, but really it's not. Open a novel sometime. You don't see extra spaces between paragraphs. So I'm going to fill up a bunch of space to pretend that we've got a full essay. Let's see, this is the 3rd page, so I'll stop here. Once you're at the end of your paper, keep hitting enter until you get to a brand new fresh page. Stop. Center, and simply type the word references. Note, it's not bolded, it's not underlined, there's no colon after it. It's not called bibliography or works cited. It is a simple word, references. Now this is I think the beauty of APA, actually of any style system, is that it's one consistent style for the entire document. Okay, all right, so we're in Times New Roman everywhere. In the header, on the cover page, your paragraph should look like this. And you've got your references page set up. Now I want to cover 2 things really quickly. One is in-text citations. So I'm going to use an example. I'm going to go to Full Sail 1. Also, this will be helpful because this used to be called Full Sail Connect. Now it's called Full Sail 1. And they've hidden the library so you cannot find it. It is so annoying. Okay, here at library. Maybe they've improved it. Not really. This is the library page, but I think if you go to About, yeah, if you go to About, you can get to the research databases, which is where we need to go. It used to be more difficult to find. I think they've improved it a little bit. It's still not as intuitive as you would like. So you have all these databases. I recommend starting with EBSCOhost. Another popular one is what was used to be called LexisNexis. It's now called Nexus Uni. Nexus Uni tends to search more down to earth, like things like newspapers, some popular magazines, while EBSCOhost tends to be a bit more academic. Still, EBSCOhost is, I think, a good place to start. Now, keep in mind, research takes time. Okay. It took me, here, let me open up my Jeep essay again. I'll open up the color-coded one. Okay. So again, I have 6 sources. This is what took me so long to write this paper. It took me hours to find these 6 sources. Because it takes time, right? I need to find a useful quote about color that supports what I'm saying, not just any quote. Then I found some other nifty stuff that I just felt worked well in this paper. You don't have to have 6 sources. You only need 3. And again, one has been provided for you if you wish to use it. But yeah, it took me, I don't know, 3-4 hours to find this research. So keep that in mind when I'm going to purposely trigger a result that I already know how to trigger, but things do not happen this quickly. Now, I've gone into EBSCOhost, and a simple way to search is just to select all. EBSCOhost is kind of a huge umbrella database that includes all of these individual databases, like Academic Search Complete, Business Source Complete. We can search all of them at once. So let's talk about, for example, the Call of Duty ad. And its use of music. So the title of that song used in that ad is the Rolling Stones' Gimme Shelter. Again, it's not going to be this easy for your individual searches. And if you're struggling with searches, you can send me a message. I can help a little bit, I think. The secret is to vary your search terms. Now, we only get 3 results. And these 2 seem completely off topic. But here's one. Ann Donahue, Billboard Magazine. Gimme Sales. The article looks at the Rolling Stones song Gimme Shelter, focusing on the songs used in the advertisement for the video game. Okay, that sounds interesting. So let's click on this. You will see either an HTML file like this or a PDF. If you don't see that, you probably only have access to an abstract, a short summary of the article, not the article itself. We don't quote from abstracts. So yeah, make sure that you're clicking on the full article, which will be either an HTML file or a PDF. At first glance, this article does not seem terribly useful because it's very short and it's never really answering the question of why Gimme Shelter is appropriate for this ad, right? It doesn't answer that question why. Remember in week 1 I said analysis about answering the question why. Why does the ad use this color? Why does it use this music? Why? This article doesn't answer that, but there is, I think, I would argue, maybe tangential interest here. Because it says, according to Activision Vice President of Music Affairs Tim Riley, scoring, meaning obtaining, Gimme Shelter was no small feat because he had to fly to New York and get rights to the song. He flew to New York to show a clip of the ad on a secure laptop, even allowing the Rolling Stones themselves, the band members, to see the ad and get their approval. So, okay, this isn't answering why Gimme Shelter is an appropriate choice of music for the Call of Duty ad, but it is sort of tangentially pointing out the fact that, wow, they really wanted this song, right? They could have chosen any song if it was just a matter of, hey, we need an upbeat, famous song. No, they wanted this song. I mean, the guy flew to New York, allowed the band members to even see an early clip of the ad to get their approval. That's quite a effort if they could have just chosen any song. So I would recommend that probably the person still needs a more primary piece of evidence, but you could still use part of this, okay? Now you have 2 choices here. We can quote directly or we can paraphrase. I can already tell you paraphrasing is a better choice because there's a lot of information here. And sometimes students just take all of it, right? That's a long quote. And you shouldn't be quoting anything that long in this paper. The only time such long quotes are useful is if you really need the reader to truly read every word of that long quote because you're going to do something with that quote. And it's crucial that your readers have already digested the quote in full because you're going to spend time with it. But too often, that's not what students do. They just grab an entire paragraph because they think, oh, wow, this says things a lot better than I could. Here, I think it's best to paraphrase, okay? Which means to say things in your own words. So let's imagine that this paragraph here is the paragraph about the ad's use of music. Now, there are 2 ways you can handle this. This is true for both paraphrasing or quoting directly. You can mention the author's name in your actual sentence. For example, according to Ann Donahue of Billboard obtaining the rights to Gimme Shelter took a lot of effort. Vice President of Music Affairs for Activision, Tim Riley, flew to New York, even allowing the Rolling Stones to see an early version of the ad. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, so the important thing is when you paraphrase, you have to say things completely in your own words. You cannot, for example, just say, according to Activision Vice President of Music Affairs Tim Riley, obtaining Gimme Shelter for the ad was no small accomplishment. New York located, right? You can't just change occasional words and still you have to say things entirely in your own words. Now, there's only one way to say Activision Vice President of Music Affairs Tim Riley, so that wouldn't be plagiarism. But yeah, the rest of it you got to say in your own words, okay? Which is what I've tried to do here. Okay, I'll even highlight it so you can see it more clearly. That's not very clear here. Let's highlight. Okay. Now, if you mention the author's name in your actual sentence, you have to put the year of publication for that article in parentheses immediately. Okay. It's just a rule. That author's name appears, boom, you put the year in parentheses. Here's a good thing about paraphrasing. We're done. Okay. We are done. It is that simple. Now, you don't have to mention the author's name in your sentence, right? And you should be able to feel, like here to mention that it's Ann Donahue of Billboard seems to have weight, right? Because we understand that Billboard is a music magazine. But we could have easily said, according to Billboard, obtaining the rights to Gimme Shelter took a lot of effort. Vice President of Music Affairs flew to New York, even allowing the Rolling Stones to see an early version of the ad. If we don't mention the author's name in our sentence, then we save it for the end. Okay. In parentheses, we would put author's last name, Donahue, comma, 2010, parentheses, period. Done. Okay. This is a little bit confusing because it's always like a either or a choose your own adventure. Are you going to list the author's name in your sentence or not? Okay. You have two choices. Either mention it in the actual sentence or save it for the end. Same thing for direct quotes. Now, I think a paraphrase is best suited here, but I'll show how to do a quote. I'll grab this part here. As I said earlier, you can do this. Okay, you don't have to take entire sentences or paragraphs. You can just take what you need. For the first time in Activision history, it allowed another company to make edits to the ad itself in order to obtain approval from the band members as well. So, according to Billboard, obtaining the rights to Gimme Shelter took a lot of effort. Vice President of Affairs for Activision Tim Riley flew to New York, and here I'll put in my quote. And this always screws up the... Hold on, let me fix this real quickly. 2.0 and times New Roman 12 point. Okay. How does this read? Vice President of Music Affairs for Activision Tim Riley flew to New York. We need an and. And, quote, for the first time in Activision history, it allowed another company to make edits, blah, blah, blah. Okay? End quote. Now, same deal. If we don't mention the author's name in the actual sentence, then we save everything for the end. But there's a difference. Same thing, Donahue, comma, 2010, comma, page or paragraph number. If you have a PDF file, meaning that you're seeing the exact photocopies of the actual pages of the journal, there will be page numbers. But for lots of things, like this is just a one-page thing, online you'll see articles that you have to keep scrolling down to read. In those cases where there are not page numbers, you simply find the paragraph. So this is in paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's in paragraph 5. So for direct quotes, we need to put a page or a paragraph number. And the abbreviation for paragraph is PARA period space 5. Okay, Donahue 2010 paragraph 5. If for a page number, the abbreviation would simply be page, whatever page it is, 52. But I'll put it back correctly. Or, again, you can do this according to Ann Donahue of Billboard. And same rule applies, okay? If we use the author's name in our actual sentence, we immediately have to put the year in parentheses. Again, it's a rule. The author's name appears in your sentence, parentheses, year of publication. And at the end, we simply include the final piece of information, the page or paragraph number. Again, this kind of confuses students because you can either break things up, author's name and year here, page or paragraph number here, or you don't mention the name and you save everything for here. Does this make sense, people? Or is this confusing? Does it help to see this in real time? Now, what do you do if there is no date? You simply use the abbreviation N period, D period for no date. What if there's no author? Well, if there's no author, you probably wouldn't mention the author in your actual sentence. Let's say this, the title of this was Gimme Sales. If there were no author, you would put the first 2 to 3 words of the article title in quotation marks, Here it's only a 2-word title, sales, comma, end quotation, year 2010, comma, paragraph 5. Okay, so there's no author, you use the first 2 to 3 words of the article title, put in quotation marks. There's no date, you use the abbreviation N period, D period. Now, what if you have more than one author? My recommendation is you go here to projectapa.info. Okay, I think this was mentioned in the lecture last week, and simply go to in-text citations. See, works by multiple authors. And just imitate the examples. You can also do a Google search, like how to cite multiple authors APA, and you can go to the APA blog sites, other sites like Purdue University's online writing lab. There are lots of ways you can learn how to do this. But yeah, we have projectapa.info to help you. This was created by a fellow Full Sail instructor. That's probably the only thing you're really going to have to deal with is how to handle multiple authors, because I don't have time to cover this. But again, can I get confirmation? Is this making sense to people, or am I going too fast? You do have the luxury to watch this over once I upload the video, the recording of the session, so you can play along. The final thing we need to cover is the references page. Now, the references looks like this because we added new content. So I'm going to bump this down to a new page, okay, because the references have to appear on a brand new page. Once we get there, stop. Okay, I'm going to put the cursor after the word references. I'm going to hit enter just once, okay, not twice, not 3 times. We're going to click on the left to begin. And notice something. When we look at paragraphs, we indent the first line, right? But we don't indent the other lines. For references, it's the complete opposite. We do not indent the first line, but we do indent a line if it goes to a second or third line, okay? And again, you have this Jeep essay to study. That's another thing. If you're unsure how to handle things, you can always copy the references here. I don't think I have an example of, they're all single authors. I don't have a multiple author example. But again, you can do a search online or go to projectapa.info to handle that. Now, the good thing is if you do use the Full Sail library, you can use this cool tool called Cite. You do have to be careful though. The Cite tool makes mistakes. For example, it loves to put authors' names in all caps. That is incorrect. It does not follow the special capitalization rules for titles, article titles that you're supposed to follow. But it gets most of this right. So I'm going to take it, okay, and fix what needs to be fixed. So I'm going to copy this, put it on my references page, okay, right here. This little clipboard, if I click match destination formatting, it will automatically put it in Times New Roman 12 point and double spaced. So again, authors' names are not put in all caps. Also, you'll impress me if you can remember this rule, because students hardly ever do. It's such a goofy rule that doesn't happen in any other style system, I don't think. But when it comes to the title of your article, your source, okay, you capitalize as you would a regular sentence. So the G in gimme would be capitalized because it's like the first word of a sentence. The S in sales would not. If you can remember that trick, you'll impress me. hardly anybody remembers it. And because the first line is not indented, but the second line is, we simply have to drag the little hourglass, the bottom part of the hourglass, over half an inch. And boom. Okay, we got a format. And it's going to remember that format for any additional ones we do. Okay. Now, I'm going to make up a reference off the top of my head just to show how simple this is. Actually, let me fix this. I hate this. I don't want to see the hyperlink. Okay, so it's basically always the same. So Smith, let's say last name, comma, first initial. Let's call him Frank Smith. Okay, first initial. Then a date in parentheses. Now, if it's something that's not published very often, like it's published quarterly, just the year will do. If it's something that's published frequently, like a newspaper article, or even just a general website, a fuller date is recommended. So 2012, comma, and then the full month, like November. Not the abbreviation like this. No, the full month and date. Let's say it's November 15th. Okay. And a period after the author, after the date, after each section of information. Then comes the article title. Now let's imagine that the title of this article is The Road Behind, The Road Ahead, The Road Behind. Now in MLA, you would do this. Right? We capitalize all the important words. In APA, we don't. Again, we capitalize as we would a regular sentence. So all this gets lowercase. And if we look at my example, my G paper, you'll see this is why all this is in lowercase. If there's a colon, yeah, you do capitalize the first letter that comes afterward because it's kind of like a secondary title. Yeah, lots of weird exceptions in APA. Like the capitalization is different. But yeah, this is why all this is in lowercase. Okay. Period. If you're unsure how to handle volume, issue, page number information, like here's an example. Okay, and the Jeep essay has some examples of this. Like here's one. That's what that's what these numbers mean. Okay, volume, issue, page number. Where the volume is italicized, the issue number is smashed right against it in parentheses, non-italicized, comma, space. Yeah, it's really nitpicky, okay? So you can go to projectapa.apa.info. You can study the Jeep example and just imitate. Okay, so you have examples of where it's just a simple date, where it's a fuller date, where you can see the capitalization rules, where you can see the retrieve from line, etc. Let me finish my example. And then if it comes from the Full Sail Library database, like if there's an actual publication name, you would put the publication, like Time Magazine. Okay, if it just comes from online, you don't need to put that. But who cares? If you put the publication italicized, you're not going to be penalized for putting it. Okay, and then you simply need to retrieve from line. Now, I don't want to create too much confusion here. You have two choices. If it comes from the library database, you can grab the permalink, which is this guy here. So on the right side, this is only for the Full Sail Library database. You can grab the permalink, okay, and just copy that and put it after the words retrieve from. Or you can just name the database. And you can find the database name. It's almost always listed somewhere. So here it's Business Source Complete. Okay, so you can either put the permalink, not the full address, because if you're in the Full Sail Library database and you try to grab that URL, that address, it's going to be a mile long. And it's not going to help me. It's not going to get me to your actual article. It's just going to result in an error. So either grab that permalink or just name the database. Okay, your choice. Now, if it comes from online, like you Googled something, then yes, you'll just put the address. Okay, www. I'll just make up blah, blah, blah.com. Okay, and you do list them off alphabetically. So D comes before S. And here, let me do real quickly. I know I'm going a little bit long, but we're just about done. So hang in there, okay? So let me put in Call of Duty Black Ops. This was for Black Ops 2, wasn't it? Or was it for the original game? I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to find a generic article. These are all like, here, let me do the Rolling Stones thing. Okay, here, Rolling Stone teams up with Call of Duty. Okay. I have no idea why this is getting a delay. How about this one? Okay, look, we have everything we need. Okay, a name, Michael McWhorter. So, McWhorter, Michael, right? M period. We have a date. Did I spell his name correctly? Word Tor. I'll check that. 11/19/10. 11/19/10. So that's 2010. 11/19. November 19th. Okay. That should be an O instead of an E. We have a title. Black Ops is making. So I'll just copy that. Paste that in. That looks terrible, but if I just change this to match destination formatting, it's still not perfect. We'll undo. We'll have to fix a bunch of things here. Black, no underlining. Okay. No bolding. Okay. Now, we're going to keep Black Ops capitalized because that's the name of the game. Oh, this looks like it's a link. Can I get rid of this? You know what? It's going to be so much easier if I just type it in. Black Ops is making. Okay. We're capitalizing just as we would a regular sentence. Black Ops stays capitalized because it's the name of the game. Is making lowercase because we would not capitalize these words in a regular sentence. Making the Rolling Stones capitalized because name of a band, proper name. This much, much richer. Okay. And let me get rid of this garbage. Period. And then we simply need the words retrieve from. And I will grab the URL and put that in. Match destination formatting. It doesn't like me. That needs to be indented. I hate if you can't get rid of these hyperlinks, they drive me nuts. Remove hyperlink. Okay. This needs to be bumped up 1, 2. This needs to be dragged 1/2 inch. Okay, so yeah, you might have to do some repairing or fixing. But that's all you have to do. It's that simple. What's the name of this? Kotaku. Yeah, you don't have to, for a website, you don't have to put the publication name. If you do by accident, I don't really care. Kotaku, okay? Right, so it matches Billboard, italicized, Kotaku, italicized. Again, for websites, you actually don't need that. But if you put it there, I just want you to get these main parts down. If you can make your references look like this, great. Oh, there's one more thing we have to fix, and I swear I'm going to let you go. If you can't remove the words running head from your subsequent pages, that's fine. But technically, we should get rid of this. Now, just so I don't lose it again, I'm going to copy this. But yeah, this should be without. Here, get rid of this, the words running head. Yes, we want it to be different on the first page. Click out of here. Okay, good. Title appears without the words running head. We have page numbers. And on page 1, good. We have, this is what we're aiming for. Running head on the cover page. And on subsequent pages, just the title of the paper. Okay. Thank you for sticking around with me a little bit longer. I had so much to cover, including APA. If you have questions, comments, let me hear them. If not, you are free to go enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for attending. If you weren't able to keep up with my breakneck speed with which I covered all this stuff for APA, remember, you can just watch the video. You can click around in the video. You can rewind. You can go back and rewatch several times in order for you to get a certain step down. Okay? But thank you so much. Drafts are due on Wednesday. Try your best. Try to follow APA formats because you do get some points attributed for APA. So you have this video to help you. So yeah, try the best you can. I know it's due tomorrow night. That's a pretty rushed thing. But remember, you're getting graded on hitting basic marks. Okay, so try your best to write a 5-paragraph essay that more or less kind of looks and sounds like the Jeep example that I gave everyone. You should be in pretty good shape. So I'll hang out a bit to answer questions if you have them. If not, thank you so much for attending, and we'll do this next week. And I promise next week is super short. I don't have that much to cover next week. Okay. So thank you for attending. Someone's hand is up. April, it would be easier if you type your question in the chat. I know it's a pain. It's just I can't hear you. I have a broken off connector from headphones stuck in the machine. So you can hear me, but I won't be able to hear you. I apologize for that. But if you could type the gist of your question into the chat, that would be awesome. It'll probably, maybe be a question that applies to everybody, that everybody would love to hear. And some of you came in late, so you might want to watch the first half or first quarter. I'm not sure what time people rolled in, but this will be processed, the video, and uploaded pretty soon. Okay, so you can watch the parts that you missed. And yeah, so I went 10 minutes longer than I would have liked to. But again, I had so much to cover. I'm going to assume that April is typing away, so I'm going to wait for her. Yeah, anybody who needs to get caught up, please do so. I strongly recommend, if you haven't done already, to watch the first lecture. I've kind of been bragging all month that even if you've watched past versions of lectures for previous classes, because I think just about everyone in my classes has taken English before, and it didn't stick the first time, or there were personal emergencies the first time, whatever, you have to take the course again. My lectures are much more streamlined, much more focused than your instructor's lectures have probably been. Tonight was a rare example where I had to go 10 minutes longer than I would have liked, but I really keep these things to an hour, and I hit the ground running, and I do not waste time. There was an exception last week because of an emergency. I had to put up a previous lecture from last month, which was unbearably long and an hour and 40 minutes because I teamed up with someone who I love to death, but I would never have made a lecture go an hour and 40 minutes. So yeah, if you can do so, please watch the first lecture because it's like 55 minutes, and I promise you it will. If ad analysis was not clear the first time you took the course, it should be after you watch the lecture. Like, we look at 3 sample ads. Very few people felt confused or lost after watching that first lecture. So yeah, and anybody who needs to play catch up, please do so. But start with the week 1 lecture, watch it, complete the week 1 worksheet, the brainstorming worksheet, get me that as soon as possible so I can respond to it. And yeah, try to do things in order instead of getting caught up as quickly as you can with everything. It's more important that you start from week 1 and move forward step by step. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.